Welcome to your 2017 Good Taxes training. In this video, we are going to talk about adjustments to income. Adjustments to gross income are covered in Section E or Tab E of your 4012. Let's take a look at the 1040 and find out exactly where we are in relations to what we've learned. So if we look, we've learned about where we put the information about our clients. We've learned about filing status. We've learned about exemptions, and we've learned about income. Now, adjustments come into play as a reduction of gross income. So if we think back to that tax formula, income minus adjustments bring us to that very important number called AGI, adjusted gross income. So now we're going to cover all the different types of adjustments that are within scope that you might see. We refer to adjustments to gross income. We refer to those as adjustments for AGI, meaning they come before AGI. So the deductions are taken on the front of the 1040. You might also hear them referred to them as above the line deductions. These are deductions that come before AGI. We'll talk about deductions that occur after AGI, and those are considered to be deductions from AGI. But our adjustments for AGI are these group of things that reduce our gross income before we get to AGI. So what are the most common things that you might see? Educator expense, health savings account deduction, HSA, early withdrawal of savings penalty, alimony paid, student loan interest, tuitions and fees deduction. Let's talk about all of those things for just a few moments. So let's talk about educator expense. So an educator that works K through 12 can take certain expenses related to things that they've bought for their classroom. They can claim up to $250 of classroom expenses for books, supplies, equipment, and other materials used in the classroom. There are, of course, qualifications for what the teaching experience must look like, and qualifications for what types of things are going to be qualified to include in the deduction. But there are also some non-qualifying expenses that people have tried to take in the years past, and so those are indicated here as well and on page E2 of your publication 4012. Next, let's look at the health savings account deduction. So the health savings account deduction is something that I will create a separate video on. It's quite detailed, and there's an entire publication that has to do with it. Now, there are limitations on the contributions you can make to an HSA, and so those limitations are updated every year. And here are the 2017 limitations. Another adjustment that you could encounter is a penalty on early withdrawal of savings. So if a taxpayer who cashes in a CD early, they would include the full amount of interest that they received, but then they would deduct the lost interest as a deduction for AGI on the line as a penalty. So that would again appear on one of those 1099 forms you would receive. If we look back at our discussion of income where we looked at the 1099 INT, we can see that line 2 is for early withdrawal penalties. So that would appear on your 1099 form. Let's move on to alimony paid. So in the income section, we talked about income was alimony received, and how if alimony was received, we need to report it because the person paying the alimony also needs to report it. So it's in the adjustment section that the person paying the alimony would report it. This is covered in E6 of your 4012. And so again, this is governed by some sort of court order that the alimony must be paid. And so the payments have specific guidelines as to what is included as alimony payments. But basically the amount reported as received must match the amount reported as paid. Otherwise, somebody or two somebodies are going to get a letter from the government. So let's check in to see where we are with the 1040. So we've covered educator expenses. We've covered health savings account, and we will cover that more in-depthly. Let's see. We will cover some of these other things. We covered penalty of early withdrawal of savings. We've covered alimony. And now we're going to cover the student loan interest deduction, line 33. Covered in greater detail on tab E8, student loan interest deduction has been around a long time. The maximum benefit of this deduction is up to $2,500. Now, there's loan qualifications and student qualifications associated with this, and then a time limit for the deduction. It's important to note here that there's a phase out associated with it. So the amount of your deduction depends on your income level. A couple things here that are important to note. If student loan interest is paid by someone who isn't legally liable for it, the payment is treated as received by the person who is legally liable, and the person legally liable is allowed to take the adjustment. So the person paying it in that case would not actually get the adjustment. It would be the person legally liable for the loan interest. Also, taxpayers cannot claim this deduction if filing status is married filing separately. We have a number of things that are married filing separate taxpayers are not allowed to participate in, and this is one of those things. Now, this information is found on EXT 6, page 6, which is the extender section of your 4012. And the reason it's found in that extender section is because this is a provision, and as many of provisions are, they are set up to expire after a certain number of years. And this was one of those provisions. And so the provision was expired at the time of the 4012 publication. This content was being provided in the event that is extended for the current tax year. And so I would assume that it did get extended because it did show up on the 1040, although that 1040 is not finalized. So in going over the things that are listed in your tab E, I've covered just about everything. I did not cover tuition and fees deduction. Along with student loan interest deduction, that information is in your 4012 in the extender area of the document. That is actually something that is located or was located on line 34. Now it's indicating that it's reserved for future use. So we'll talk about that when we get to the extender portion of our discussion. So that completes the adjustments to gross income section. And so again, remember that this area here reduces our gross income, adjusts it, and so that as we seek to arrive at AGI, it's going to reduce the amount of gross income we have reported. Thank you for watching and have a great day.